perfect opportunity for best stormwater management practices, which can be beautiful as well. So again, why? What are all the reasons? You know, we can brand our township with its name, its key attributes, you know, like charm, natural assets, history. We can extend and enhance the village square concept. We can connect to all these businesses and the up-and-coming businesses as well. We could potentially look at connecting to other trails, but I know that's a more controversial potential. We can exude that vibrant community feel, elicit a wow factor, and we hope to show you some of those things that we can do. And support and engage a local business, as well as educate and demonstrate the best environmental practices. Most namely, in this area, is definitely stormwater management, among other things. So just imagine, so like phase one, you're in the township, you see our sign, a big new sign, which actually brands our name. We're actually Lower Frederick Township, among fenced rows of visually striking wildflowers and shrubs along Route 29, highlighting our village center. We even have plans to put an old antique fence through those wildflowers. So it's just that visual punch as you walk through or drive by our town, just as the first phase. Then a new path can come from the Rita's area across that wet area through a rain garden and a naturalized meadow, lush with flowers, and a gazebo to sit and enjoy it all, with educational signage as well. I'm sure you've seen these cropping up all over the place in other parks and other towns. Then lastly, imagine sitting at a table that could be used as either a gaming table or a picnic table, next to a beautiful pollinator garden with pollinator signs and all of that kind of stuff, and with a little solar light to light those tables. So these are kind of like three distinct phases and features that we're talking about doing in the park. So we do propose transforming it into this visually and educationally vibrant village center. This is a little small to read, but there's the rain garden over there, the flowers along 29, the pollinator garden, and the tables. So Pam is going to talk about how do we get this done.
Thank you. We certainly have opportunities for flexibility with the implementation of this project with regard to when finances and resources are available. Ideally, in a perfect world, the most economic implementation of this project would be if we could complete it all this calendar year. The reason being we can minimize the mobilization and rental costs. We can better use the volunteer hours that we're going to be using extensively in having this park built. And we can also minimize the amount of design and engineering hours put into it. We can consolidate that for the project. But knowing that it's not a perfect world, we looked at how we might be able to partition this project into segments and phases so that we could do it in pieces if we needed to. Looking at what our opportunities were and what we really wanted to accomplish initially for the park, especially in regard to our centennial coming up this year, what we want to get accomplished this year, and also looking at the lead times and the issues we have with some permitting, some site maintenance, some site preparation, and also the engineering and final design costs. We want to prioritize what we wanted to do on that project. We're able to cut it into three phases based on these opportunities. This first phase we're calling phase one is the phase we would really want to get done this year because it is our centennial. This phase includes the sign that Jackie talked about, the Welcome to Historic Lower Frederick Township. It also includes a split rail fence lining the existing trailways that are there, and also beautiful planted garden beds there which are going to be deliberately designed to have wow factor with ornamental grasses and some shrubs and a lot of color and four-season interest, so that it'll be a really nice impactor. This does help to give Lower Frederick an identity, which we don't have right now, and also it provides a beautiful face for the park and starts to really identify the park, which curiously, when I talk to people, most people don't realize that's a park right now. The second phase, and this is really the kicker for us, this is where the majority of the money comes into play on this project, because there is a lot involved here, but it is also the most exciting part of the project because, as Jackie touched on, this is where we can do the environmental education piece of it, where we can talk to proper best management practices of stormwater management and groundwater control with the installation of the rainwater garden and a no-mow meadow area surrounding it, demonstrating good best management practices. The gatekeeper to this project is the removal of those dead trees. Those need to come out before we can really go in there and do this work. And that removal of those trees, when it's done, can be used as matching funds against the project to get funding, because it is part of the site preparation for the project itself. So that is the gating factor for this part of the project. We would also extend the trail down around, and it goes across a bridge at the base of the rain garden and makes the connector back to Manning properties, all of those properties back there that currently are not connected to the park and the village square concept that we're looking for. And we have the gazebo that Jackie talked about. And we also have some indicated places there where we want to put in some historic displays. We're asking people to provide historic relics that they may have in their garage or are able to find cheap or free, which would also be placed there as memorabilia for the historic history of our township and descriptions of how those materials were used and how meaningful they are and why. The third phase, which we're calling phase 2, is in the upper part of the park. This is where the pollinator garden is. It's also where the gaming tables are, and a solar pole light that Jackie was talking about. And in all of these areas also, we are adding some additional new trees to try to get back the canopy that we have lost with all those dead ash trees that we have there. And we're also using them as visual breaks against the visual from the park into CBS, and we're also using them, if you look over along the side of the post office, we're using them to kind of block the view of the not so nice looking back end of our Zieglerville post office back there. So we're trying to get the canopy back a little bit there as well, and trees have an important part in groundwater management as well, so we want to incorporate them into our design. So talking about the money, I believe you all got a copy of the detail spreadsheet in the initial package that was sent out, which gives the detail primarily based on proposals and quotes that we've gone out and gotten to get the costing for this. Everything is done that we are talking about today. All these numbers have been on the basis of quotes and proposals that we've actually gone out and gotten. We've put a lot of groundwork into this to make sure that we're accurate. By the 3 phases, you can see what the costing is. And it rounds up to a total cost for this project estimated somewhere around $153,000. Now that's based on our initial things. I can talk in detail to that, but I think the next slide is probably more important. This is worst case. If we did not have any funding, if we just total cash outlay, we're paying cash to do this project, that is what it would cost. There's no volunteer hours in there. There's no sponsorships or anything else in there. It's just purely the cost of this paper. So the good thing is we have been out aggressively looking at all of the funding that is available to us. And we are actively engaged in applying for all the funding we find that is applicable to this project. It is a very good project, applies to a lot of funding that is available out there. You will see that we are also, we're going for a Board of Realtors grant thank you to Chuck, because it does have a lot of the elements of a connectivity and building the village spirit, the kinds of things that the placemaker grants are looking for. It has a lot of those elements to it. We are also looking at going for the 2040 grant, because, again, it applies greatly to us, and that is really our big source of money for this project that is available to us, and is the less restrictive piece of money that we could use for all the aspects of the park. You'll see some of these other grants are specific to rain gardens and things, so we're very limited in what we could use them for, but they're useful for us in the grand scheme of things. We are working on a Perkiomen Watershed Conservancy grant for about $5,000, and that one is specific to rain gardens. So if we don't remove the trees, that's a dead issue for us. And the Schuylkill River Restoration Fund is also for rain gardens and also pest waste stations, which we've incorporated one of those into the thing. But again, if we don't pull those trees out as that gating factor, that rain garden can't happen. We do have matching fund requirements. The Montco grant requires 20% matching, and we are asking for $100,000. We currently, in the use of our volunteer hours and the dollars we have so far committed, we are right now for the funding at about $9,000 and some change, so we're falling short on the matching funds right now for that one. We also have a 25% minimum match on the Schuylkill River Restoration Fund, and we're looking for $38,000. We just changed that this afternoon after negotiations. So that's going to require another $9,000 in matching funds. And we have been awarded an AmeriCorps crew. We have them for a day to help plant and do some prep of beds. We already have them scheduled for April 15th. So we have that, and that's being put forth. That's available for grant money as well, so we're putting that forth as well. We do expect to, if you approve this project this evening, we will be going out and talking to all of the businesses that are directly impacted around this park and asking for donations, in return for which they will be listed as sponsors on a plaque in the park. We're hoping to get some money from that. We also have donations. We talked a little bit about the historic displays. Phil Smith and Donna Lynn both have antique items that they are willing to donate to us to put up in displays at the park. And the park board hours. We've put in a tremendous amount of volunteer time, and that's not just Jackie and Pam time, that is also park board time. We've had a meeting of the park board at the park to discuss options. There's been a couple off-hours meetings, various meetings of the members of the park board to meet and discuss options and work on the initial designs. So there's been a lot of work put into this. Warren did a tree study for us, tree assessment, and wrote up the assessment for us on the site preparation with regard to what was necessary for the trees. So there's been a lot of effort by the park board, all volunteer time being put into this. And that 133 hours is really low. That's a very conservative number because we want to go nuts. But that's how much time we've collectively put together. Just on a quick tally, we're estimating 100 hours more of volunteer time to support this project. It's probably going to be much more than that, but we need to kind of put a number on it. We also, as Jackie mentioned, she is Master Watershed Steward in final stages of training, and she is willing to use this project as 1 to 2 planting projects to help get this job done. That's an additional volunteer effort that we can put toward the funding as matching funds, if we could get that put together. And we're also looking at using volunteer effort, getting community involvement. We'd like to have community involved and have them take ownership of this park and get involved in its beautification, using volunteers for all the planting events, some of the gardening events, spreading mulch, things like that we can easily have done with contractors. Because the 2040 grant is so important to us, we just wanted to quickly go down through that, how well this project meets the needs of the 2040 grant. We have an extensive comprehensive plan that is shovel-ready. We've met the goals of connected communities, and that we're improving the connectivity of that area by putting the connector back to the Manning and improving the situation for the whole business community there. CVS just started a grab and go with grab and go food, so it's an opportunity for them to have people to go out and use the picnic area and eat there. We'll have the Dunkin' Donuts, we've got the Wawa, places where people can get food and come in and use that area. Sustainable places, certainly. We're working on sustainable practices, and we're looking at a low maintenance kind of facility. The gazebo and the bridge are both Trex material, very low maintenance. We've minimized the amount of maintenance in the area. The park board will be doing the maintenance on the rain garden and the no-mow area, and it minimizes the amount of maintenance required by municipal staff as far as mowing and that kind of thing. And it's a vibrant economy. As Jackie so clearly described, we're trying to create the village concept, the vibrancy of an active concept of community, and also getting people to come to the park and enjoy it. It's going to be a community gathering place. We do envision using this facility when it's done, particularly the gazebo, as kind of a stage and doing small group training activities, ecological training activities, and small group Boy Scouts, that kind of thing, to train them on proper best management practices for stormwater and groundwater, and why it's so important, why pollinator gardens are so important for us, and those kinds of things. So it has an educational process for us as well. It does increase the walkability of the Montco area. We are adding a trail and as a pathway, and as Jackie talked about, it does potentially connect us to the Sunrise Trail. We support the downtown community destinations, helping those businesses, certainly by dressing up that park and making it a much nicer environment for those. All of those businesses should benefit from that, and the people will come there and enjoy it. And adaptation and resiliency. We have the problem with the ash trees. We had a monoculture there with ash trees. When we plant new trees, we're going to mix up the varieties so that we aren't not creating another situation that is going to be more resilient to whatever the new manifestation comes to Lower Frederick Township that's going to kill our trees, whatever's next. If you have multiple varieties, you're less able to do that. And also the emphasis on native species in the pollinator garden and also in the perennial gardens, that increases your resiliency to changes in climate change, changes to our environment. When you've got native species, they can adapt better to those kinds of things. So there's a lot of education opportunity here, and there's a lot of sustainability being built into the project plan as a whole and what we're doing. I talked about the benefit of doing the whole thing economically, of doing the whole thing in 1 year. This is essentially the project plan. If we could do it in 1 year, this is kind of what it would look like. It is aggressive. I have a very strong background in project management, and so does Jackie, and this doesn't scare us. And it's entirely doable, and as I said before, there's a lot of economies of scale we can gain if we can do this all at one time. When we have an excavator come in, they can do all of the excavation at one time. When we have concrete work needing to be done, we can have that done in all the places we need concrete wood work done at the same time. There's a lot of economies of scale of not breaking it up into separate little projects and doing it incrementally. So, dear Board of Supervisors, now we come down to the ask. We are asking this evening if you would approve this project. If you like what you're hearing, the Park Board is excited about this. This is something we would really like to do. We think it's a great adder to the community, and we would hope that we could get your approval on that. We are also asking for the release of $2,300 from the Park Board budget, which we have already requested. And this is for support of Susan Harris from Cerulean, who has been working with us on grants and grant applications, giving us some guidance in that regard to help us get there. We are also looking for funding for the tree removal and the stump grinding. As I talked about, that is the gating factor to being able to do that whole rain garden section in the southeast section of this park. $32,000 is an estimate that we developed based on personal experience and some guidance from a consultant. Warren has volunteered that he feels that this job could be done for a lot substantially less money than $32,000 for park board arborist. So I would imagine, going out to bid, we may find that that is, not as expensive as it looks, but it is a large job. We will need you to approve and sign the letter for the SCUCA whatever grant, and that needs to be done by February 12th. We're looking for $39,000, and again, where we're falling short is, if you look at that, the list of all of the grants, if you add that all up, the money is there. We can cover the project. Our problem is the matching funds of getting us there. And the two biggies are the 2040 fund, if we decide to go forward with that, and I know we're competing there, but we have essentially 9,000 and some change in matching funds right now. We need to get that up to 20. And then we have the additional 9,000 that we would need for the Schuylkill River grant. And last and not least, we call this park the CBS Park, and primarily just because of location. I'm not finding a permanent record, but that is actually what it is called. We would like to rename the park. If you agree, the Village Center Park, and make that, whatever process is necessary to make that the official name for this park. Or if the board has a better idea, certainly suggest it. But we want to make the idea that this is our village center. This is the one, commercial area in Lower Frederick Township. It makes sense to try to make it kind of a village center and develop it in that way.
It doesn't have an official name right now.
That's kind of what we're going. And last but not least, we realize that we're in competition, and Lower Frederick Township is not a rich township. We're willing to meet and brainstorm or whatever we need to do with you to try to get a resolution and try to see what we can break free, what we can do to get this project at least up and running, get at least partially done this year. And I thank you for your time and your consideration, and leave it up to you now. Thank you.
I've got a question, I guess, for Pam or Jackie. The grant, for the SRRF grant, what would that pay for? That 38,000.
Yeah, that one pays for just about everything having to do with the rain garden.
Was phase one.
That's phase 1B, and that's the one that is gated by the trees needing to come down to make that happen. But that would help to cover design and installation, planting, whereas the PWC grant, the Perkiomen Watershed grant, is also just for rain gardens, and that is primarily they do a little bit of planting, but it's primarily planting and planting support. They provide plants from their greenhouses for us to use
It will also pay for the flowers throughout the park, for the pollinator flowers as well as the wildflowers. It will not pay for the paths or the gazebo or the town sign, but it will pay for educational sign.